Does the thought of buying a home, does it make your head spin? Does it give you anxiety, make your chest tight? Well, some people it does, and it's rightfully so, because it's a big purchase, likely the biggest purchase that you're going to make, maybe one of the biggest in your life. So we're going to go over some steps and some ways to mitigate that and help you decide whether this is the right thing for you, give you some things to think about, and hopefully bring some answers to that. So let's get into this video now. Hi, I'm Derek Phillips, and I'm here in Charleston, South Carolina. I'm a real estate agent, and I help people wade the waters, I guess, right now with the way the market is, and to help them determine whether buying is right for them or selling is right for them or which direction they want to go. So let's go ahead and explain why we're here today. So today we're talking about getting off the pot, basically, right? Making a decision. So by the end of this video, we should have some tools to where we can decipher some of those questions we've had, and if not, hopefully it'll at least give you some ways to decide whether you can even afford a house or put you in a different mindset. So let's go ahead and get into some of the things, and one of the biggest things is affordability for the home. So can you afford it? Can you afford owning a home? Well, there's a bunch of different ways to calculate this, and it's not whatever it is you're pre-approved for. So the first step is going to be getting pre-approved and finding out what you're approved for to even see if that number is going to fit your lifestyle. Number two, you're going to have to make sure that all your ducks are in a row as far as your credit and things like that. And so once you find out whether you have all your finances straight, as far as maybe your credit and your bills, debt to income ratio, which we're getting ready to talk about, and then you get your pre-approval, that number will give you what you're approved for. So once you get that number, you can kind of see where you're at, but that is not what you can afford. That's different. That's a different number, and we're going to go ahead and get into that now. We're going to start with the granddaddy of conservative finance, and that is, do you know who that is? So it's Dave Ramsey. So Dave Ramsey wants you to have at least 6 months reserve. He wants you to have 20% down, and he only wants you to spend 25% of your take-home pay. So let's go ahead and let's calculate that a little bit. Let's get out our calculators and get some numbers so you can see. Get your pencil out, get your calculator out, phone, whatever you're using, and let's go over some numbers here. All right, so let's go ahead and let's say $8,000 is what you gross. That's what you make in a month before taxes. So 80%. Goodness gracious. So $8,000 times 0.8 is going to leave you $6,400 left over. So that takes away 20% for taxes, right? So now we have our take-home pay of $6,400. He now wants you to only use 25% of that. So now we multiply that, right? So he only wants us to use 25% of that. So we're going to multiply that by 25%, and that's going to give you $1,600. So he wants you to be all in as far as your mortgage, your taxes, your insurance, home insurance and interest, the two I's, bit of PITI, and it's $1,600 for all that, and then including your HOA if you have an HOA. So that's the Dave Ramsey method, and we're going to go over these way more in depth in another video. So that's just to give you an idea. So let's go over, there's another method, and it's called the 28% method. So the 28% method is 28%, and now that's of your gross. So you can use 28% of your entire gross, and that's just for your mortgage, your insurance, your taxes, and your interest. All right, so 28% of that. So if it's $8,000, and then so $8,000 is what you have before taxes times 0.28. That already gives you $2,240. So $2,240 to spend on that. All right, now there's a second half to that. So there's a front end and a back end. That front end is just your mortgage and all your escrow payments and your HOA. And then you also have your back end, which is all that, your mortgage plus your escrow, and then all your bills, all your debts. So that is all your credit cards, your loan payment for your car, maybe a second mortgage or whatever it is. It doesn't include household expenses, utilities, and things like that. So transportation, utilities, all that. So when it says 28% of your gross, it's talking about just your mortgage. All right, so the third equation process that lenders use, and a lot of big bank type lenders and Freddie Mac, this is kind of what they go off of a lot of times, and it's 35-45. So 35% they don't want you to use any more than 35% of your gross before tax money. And then they also don't want you to use any more than 45% of your take-home pay. Now that's for all your bills, that's for everything all in. So that is your all your loans as far as car loan, your credit card debt, and your mortgage. So all of it all together, and your escrow and all that. So 35-45 rule, then you have the 28% rule, and you also have Dave's method. So we're going to go into that in a different video that's right up here. And if you want to go look at that. It gives a more in depth of how you calculate that, and then it'll also send you to a video that shows you how much house you can actually afford and what house you can afford in your area. So let's go on with this. So that's 35-45, the 28% rule, and then the rule of 25, the Dave Ramsey rule, basically is what he uses. So next, we're going to go into what if the market crashes. We hear this all the time. What if the market crashes, Derek? What are we going to do? Well, if the market crashes, you're in a payment that we can afford because we've used these calculations, right? We've set ourselves up already to know that we are going to be in a safe place as far as being able to afford a home we can live in. You can't look at your home as an investment. In fact, your home is, I don't consider your primary home an investment or asset. It can be eventually, but especially at the beginning when you're buying a home, it's going to be an expense, right? So you're going to have your closing costs, you're going to have your monthly payments, you're paying a ton of taxes up front, right? So the taxes at the beginning, they're front loaded. It's a massive amount of taxes at the first half of your payment. The first, if it's a 30-year loan, you know, it's half that 22 years or something like that, I think is what it normally breaks down to, that you're paying more taxes than your principal off your loan. So that all said, you're set up to where you have a payment that's steady. It's that percent or it's that number every month. It's not going to fluctuate like rent will. Like rent's going to continue to go up. It's more up and down, but more likely up. And so your payment is going to stay the same. So in 5 years, when other people's rents went up $300 or $400, $500, whatever it is, you're staying at that same level. So that's a safety net for me. To me, that's a safety net. And also, your home is becoming a kind of a forced savings account because you're putting equity into something, right? Considering that last crash, right, or the last time that the housing bubble burst or whatever, it went down significantly, 30-40%. And now, or then, it came back within 5 years, 2009-ish, and then it came back in a lot of places about 2014. So, 5-6 years, depending on where you are in the country. So I wouldn't worry about that. Personally, I'm not extremely worried about that because I'm in a payment I can afford. So let's move on from that, and we're going to go into, all right, well, what if we lose our jobs? Well, if you lose your jobs, you're also not going to be able to pay that apartment payment. I'm not trying to say buy a house or don't buy a house. I'm saying if you can afford it and that's what you want, that's where you should move to. Where's the question? What's the issue? If you have an issue, another issue, please let me know in the comments below, and I'll see. Maybe you just aren't ready to buy a home. That's also a possibility. If you're still stuck in this revolving, should I buy or shouldn't I buy? Dad's telling me this, Grandpa's telling me this, Joe Blow down the street's telling me this. So make sure you're making a decision for yourself. You're not going to buy a home right now, and it's not going to be an investment type of home, most cases. So it's in your best interest to look at this as you're buying a home. It's not an investment. You're buying a place to live to where you can set roots or set some sort of standard, and you're not going to have to worry about it 3 or 4 years down the road. In the past few years, you've been able, since 2015 basically, you've been able to buy a home and sell it in 2 years and make some money off of it. Right now, that may or may not be the way it is down the road. I don't necessarily think it's going to be that way, where you're going to be able to 2 years, maybe 5 or 6 years now. The average home, people own their first home on average 7 to 10 years, depending on which calculation you use and who you look, median or average, all that type of stuff. So let's calm our heads, let's look at it, and let's say, what do I want to do with this? Do I want to stay living, renting at prices that may continue to go up, rates that may continue to go up, or do I want one solid payment that I know I'm going to have to pay? And that's it. So to me, I like the safety part of it. So those are the big questions I get a lot. As long as home prices right here and where I am, at least, they're fairly stable. They're fluctuating a little bit right now, but they're fairly stable. And people have been saying that it's going to crash and prices are going to continue to drop like crazy. People are saying they are, but I just haven't seen it. Yeah, there's more concessions for the buyers, which is good for you as a buyer. You can ask for a little bit less as far as the price on the home, listing price. You can put some contingencies in there maybe. So those are becoming more common again. However, there are still very few homes on the market, and there still are buyers out there. Not as many as there was 6 months ago, but there still are buyers. And all that being said is that at the very least here, it looks like prices are going to stabilize, or they are stabilizing. So that's a good thing for everybody, for buyers and sellers. Well, mainly for buyers. Sellers loved it. So let's take that into consideration. And that forced savings account analogy that I used, that's the equity that you're building. You're building that equity. You're building somewhere where you can go later. If you've put down 5 or 10%, or if you're able to put down 20%, you put down 20%. Now you have room to where you can refinance, do a cash out refinance, whatever, have a little bit more liquidity or cash flow when you need it, or it gives you a lot of different ways to move around financially. So to me, I think all those, for all those reasons, if you can afford to buy, it's going to be your personal decision. Decide whether you can afford to buy. And if you can, then buy the home. Okay? If you can't, sit back, wait, get your credit right, get your shit straight, and just wait it out for another year, right? But you need to make sure you go through those processes. So check out these next videos, and they will dive deeper into the affordability and how much you can afford. Once we go through these calculations, I'll take you through step by step. All right, you guys have a great day, and we'll see you on the flip side.